Hello, I welcome you for another edition of today's program, Proprietà min wara kwinti. May I remind you that this program is transmitted every day, twice a day, from Monday to Friday at 7:30 a.m. and at 8:30 p.m. and on weekends, Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. With us, as usual, the General Secretary of the Federation of Estate Agents, Simon De Bono. Today's topic is the boutique hotels. Simon.
Yes, thank you for having us again. Boutique hotels are a rather interesting concept. About 5-6 years ago, the government had accepted our request that properties that were in a dilapidated state, mainly in Valletta, that required a substantial amount of investment to be restored. It should be considered they should change from residential to commercial. And the most appropriate need identified at the time was they should be boutique hotels. It is a concept that has caught on very well in Europe, where individual family units could invest in restoring their property and earn an income by offering accommodation within the city, Malta's capital city. We'll go into a bit more detail in the next round.
Sure. So we'll be back just in a few minutes, and then we can start expanding the theme of boutique hotels. Welcome back for today's program, Proprietà min wara kwinti, a program presented to you by the Federation of Estate Agents. This is a special edition for our English-speaking televiewers. Today's theme is the boutique hotels. With us, Simon De Bono, the Secretary General of the Federation of Estate Agents. Simon, when it all began, this concept of boutique hotels in Europe?
There had been a trend. You had these large hotels run by branded names, the Hilton, you had the Sofitels, the Novitels, and eventually you were like a number. You went into a large organization with 400 guests, 500 guests, 1,000, 2,000 guests, and a taste developed for what in the olden times we used to call the pensione. All right? An arty crowd, crowds that like literature, crowds that like luxury. They want to be right in the city center, basically within walking distance, so you can choose to have breakfast at the cafeteria around the corner. You can have lunch every day at a different restaurant, enjoying the views, enjoying the culture, sitting in the piazza. And basically the industry broke up. You had families that had very good properties within the city center. They were property rich but cash poor, and they decided to do something about it. And since the units are small, we're talking 8 rooms, 11 rooms, a family can handle it on their own. You basically need 2 maids, 2 concierge that would probably be close to minimum wage, about 700 euros a month. You don't have to provide all the facilities like you provide in a larger hotel, because most of the dining would be outside. The pensione system is you basically go there to rest, to relax and to sleep, but you're exploring the city. So the location of the boutique hotel is quite important. And in Malta, we actually don't have that many hotels in Valletta. Valletta is small. It is only 220 meters wide by 800 meters long. And a number of boutique hotels have sprung up. And now we're going to see a number of photos of what some of the boutique hotels in Valletta look like. Quite unlike what a normal hotel would look like. We can see over there, there's the Maltese carpet, which is the way the tiles are laid out that give an impression that it is a carpet, but since Malta is a warm country, we do not use carpet. So the imagination and the style of the property owner goes into creating a product that you would not find elsewhere. And you are basically living in what used to be a home. So you are a home from home in this capital city within 200 meters of practically everything, right? And you are living with a certain amount of style. There's normally the owner present somewhere in the background, so attention to detail and quality to service is very, very high. There's not something you farm out. And then when you come to duties, like for example a bathroom, they can go out on a wing. They make the most advanced, most stylish bathrooms that you would find in the hotel industry within that price bracket, because obviously if you want to spend 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 euros a night, you might expect to get that. But the boutique hotel is luxury on a budget. So you can afford to get a room at a fraction of a rate of what a major hotel would give you. But you are within the city center. They are normally a blend, a mixture of old with new. Very, very effectively. I am a bit of a conservative traditionalist, and this old with new I wasn't much in favor. So if the palazzos of Valletta are Baroque, I would prefer everything to be Baroque. But they've made this experiment and it really worked out very well. So you got a beautiful product for a modern age, and it works because people are renting. The occupancies are very, very high. Then we get, sorry, you were going to say.
But can I invest in a boutique hotel outside Valletta?
Yes. The only difference between a boutique hotel inside Valletta and a boutique hotel outside Valletta, that Valletta you are over 90% occupancy, verging on the 95%. The income rates can be as much as 4 to 5 times larger than boutique hotels outside of Valletta, but obviously the cost of acquiring a palazzo in Valletta is 4 to 5 times more than it would be outside Valletta. So outside Valletta you can still find nice palazzos, large houses, large noble houses, where they can still go and enjoy the village life. But in this particular example, we are always careful that when we give advice, we explain what has happened, not what we wish to happen. And since there are about 30 boutique hotels in Valletta that are operational, some of them as full-scale boutique hotels, some of them as guest houses, and some of them as the renting out of rooms, but what we would call an apart hotel. We have a very good sample with proven rates that we can use to make projections on what is going to happen in the future, because doing a boutique hotel is a long-term project. You have to acquire the building, you have to apply for the permits, which would take anything from 1 year upwards. Then you have to refurbish it and put it on the market. And over here, we have some artistic impressions of what an architect thinks a boutique hotel should look like, because now what is happening is we have the project that is evolving. So we started with the existing ones, and then you always get the input of these architects said, okay, so we had the old house, but now if I could build it, I would build it like this, because we want the bathroom to be a walk-in en suite from the bedroom. Our requirement for enormous cupboard space is not there. If we could do like with 3 foot of covered space, but then would like a desk, because everybody has a laptop, or they would like to sit down and communicate a bit with the office, perhaps when they were on holiday, which might have not been provided alternatively. People today want light. The Maltese houses tend to have rather small windows. So when you have a suite or a penthouse that has an entire wall of glass, that is something that is sought after. But it is always a combination of the new on the inside with the old on the outside. The Valletta was built after the Great Siege. The Great Siege was in 1565. 1570 it was planned, and the stone started being laid about 1590. All the noble families of Europe wanted their firstborn sons to come and serve in the Knights of Malta. It was a glorious victory which inspired many. And since we're talking about princes, earls, dukes,
Yes.
The importation of architects and engineers, this was the finest of the finest that existed in Europe. If we go into the 1700s now, 1722, there was Charles de Mondion in Malta. He was the king, he was the architect of the King of France. He worked on Mdina, he worked on Valletta. In fact, the joke is that the best of French Renaissance Baroque is actually in Malta, not in France. You know, so you had Détigné followed by Charles de Mondion, and these people spend money. If you calculate how expensive Valletta is and how much money it took to build Valletta, it is probably per square meter the most expensive city in the world, bar none. And the beautiful thing about it is that it has been built 500 years ago, and it's still there, in exactly the same form as they had built originally. So the workmanship in these buildings was absolutely spectacular and without parallel. But because the knights were a monastic order, right, when they built rather plain facades. And then you see the beauty of the building as soon as you enter into the building. So the knights weren't the kind of people who used to show off. It was rather low-key. It's only in the French Renaissance period, about 1722, that we started getting more elaborate facades.
Interesting. History lesson from Simon. Before we stop for a short break, the Federation of Estate Agents would like to draw the attention of those who intend to sell, rent or advertise their property that they need the energy performance certificates. Simon.
Yes, it is a legal requirement. The deadline for the provision of the energy performance certificate was last month. We had entered into discussions with the Building Regulations Office, and they have agreed to extend the deadline to the end of February. Basically, what you would have to do is find one of the authorized engineers who can compile the energy performance certificate. They will come, check the property and issue with the certificate, and it will have a rating. So when you advertise or when you give the property to a tenant or to an estate agent to market it for you, you will quote the energy rating of the building. So there are a lot of properties that have to be done. I expect there's going to be a rush towards the end. So our advice of the Federation to our clients is please think about this before. You can contact us on 79446688. I repeat, 79446688, and we will recommend you to the list of engineers that are available.
Proprietà min wara kwinti. We'll be back with you in a few moments. Let's have a break. Welcome back for today's program. Proprietà min wara kwinti. The theme is the boutique hotels in Malta. Simon, boutique hotels are expensive properties, but is it worth it to invest in a boutique hotel in Malta?
Yes, we have done a study on what it costs to acquire boutique hotels, what it costs to refurbish, what it costs to furnish, and the income levels. And I picked up on a particular permit that has been approved recently. We have a street where you have a number of buildings, and one of the buildings in particular, a permit had been applied for and it had been approved. In this case, it is the second building from the right. So you have a building, a street, another building, and this is the one that has a boutique hotel. It was a rather new facade, and the planning authority sort of insisted that it should go back to the original Baroque facade. One of the advantages is that they will give you another floor normally, so you get an increase in the volume of the building. In this particular case, this property has a basement that can be used as a garage, which is an absolute rarity. On the ground floor, you have the concierge, the reception, At the end, you have a bar with a restaurant, and you have the dining and the lounge. So as soon as one enters into the boutique hotel, you have this sense of space, all right? Then every additional floor that you go up, you will find the rooms. Some rooms start at about 17 square meters. The higher you go, the larger the rooms. You've got 22 square meter rooms. You've even got a 30 square meter suite that takes up an entire floor. An interesting thing is that all bathrooms are en suite. So you walk, there's no common bathrooms that you would perhaps have in the older buildings where you have to walk across a corridor. And you have a terrace that can be used. MEPA now, the planning authority, is giving the use of some of the roofs for functions like weddings. Valletta is sloping, so if you are lucky to get a boutique hotel that is at the top of the slope, the slope will give you a view. Now we come to the mathematics, the rates. All right, is it possible that boutique hotels will give a rate of income? It is true. A very simple check on any commercial website. I use the largest one, which is bookings.com. I took a sample of 7 boutique hotels that are actual operating boutique hotels, all in Valletta. And you can see we start I took a booking which is next week. This is the low season. It doesn't get any lower than November in Malta. We have 945. I'm talking about the second column. 118, 2 of them. 1,320. 2,233, 1,794, and 1,148. So basically we're talking from 159 euros per day up to 370 euros per day. What makes the difference? The decor and the service. This is a competitive industry. The better you are, the more people will seek you out. There are cheaper boutique hotels, but then they are not of the standard. And it is money that makes a standard in finishing. It is money that gives you the right design, all right? And it is money that enables you to market it and to employ the right people. So the income levels are there. And this is low season. I also took a look at the high season rates. Now, with an agency like Booking.com, you have a logarithm. So the closer the date comes to the booking, the higher the rates go. And boutique hotels have stock rooms, and then they have other rooms. So they put the cheap stock rooms up. And then when you book, you have an alternative of booking a more expensive room. And the history of the search shows to us that it's actually possible for clients to book more expensive rooms. And they do tend to book more expensive rooms. Then we come on to other costs that are involved in the mathematics of a boutique hotel that are not strictly just from the income side. You will see on further slides that we have to show that average yearly low season income. So we would calculate that high season is between 30% to 100% more. All right, but from the statistics that we have compiled, the average yearly low season income from one room is about 76,000 euros. So in an 8-roomed boutique hotel, it will generate you 611,000 euros income. On an 11-roomed boutique hotel, you're talking 840,000 euros income. That is low season rates. When you translate this into more expensive room than just the stock room, which are possibly double or treble the rate. And in a season, you have between low season and high season, then it is possible to exceed 1 million euros per annum income from a boutique hotel. Costs are related to what you actually need to run a boutique hotel. And it's not that expensive. It's not necessary to clean the linen. Today there are very professional companies. They would pass every day, take the old linen and deliver you with newly laundered and ironed linen. And it costs about, for 11 rooms, 600 euros per month. So this is totally outsourced. The consumption of water electricity would be about under 600 euros. If you do thermal water heating with solar and photovoltaic cells, you can get that down to nothing. You can actually turn it into an income source if you have a roof that is big enough. Maintenance In the beginning, it's not much. But as time goes along, you could calculate about 400 euros per month. If guests, they might scuff the walls or whatever, they always have to be touched up. So you maintain a very high standard. And the trick about this is maintain high standards. If you have 2 maids and 2 concierge, you're talking about 3,100 euros in wages every month, which will give you a total yearly cost, all these put together, of about 60,000 euros. It's not that expensive to run a boutique hotel. So based on the previous figures, on low season rates and at 80% occupancy, you're talking about 780,000 euros. The deductions you'll have to do from that are tax, and you will have to, national insurance is included. There are structures where you can lower your exposure to tax, perfectly legal, all right? You could have a holding company owning the building, renting it to an operating company. The operating company does the refurbishment, the construction, the furnishing, all right? It can reclaim the VAT against an operating expense, and it can claim the rental against its operating income. So you have the holding company, which is being taxed at 15% because it is a long-term lease to the operating company is leasing to the to the operating company, and the operating company then pays a 35% tax on the profit, which would be assuaged because of the rental and the clawbacks on depreciation there. So there are financial instruments where one's exposure can be reduced. The government has been very generous with the hotel industry. It is a strategic industry for Malta. You now have small projects where you can express your style into something that has a market value, and it's working. Because I had some figures from a boutique hotel that has opened up about 6 months ago, and they started with an occupancy of 35% on the first day, and it went up that within 4 to 5 months they were at 89%, basically 90%. So this beautiful capital city that we have, that is only 220 meters wide and 800 meters deep, is providing a very high-end, desirable form of hotel accommodation in the form of boutique hotels. Yes, they are extremely viable. Your rates of return on capital, just the return on capital, not the capital appreciation, vary from 30%, and in some cases they go up to 40% per annum.
Proprietà Min Wara Kwinti, a program presented to you by the Federation of Estate Agents. Today's theme is the boutique hotels. Before we come to the conclusion of our program, Simon, is it practical to have a boutique hotel in rural areas?
Yes, it is, because then the mathematics are different. The cost of acquiring a boutique hotel that in Valletta could be in excess of 2 million, you could acquire a property for 500,000 in a rural area. In rural areas, there are special government schemes of ecotourism. Okay. So it attracts, again, a different kind of tourism. The weather in Malta is probably the best in the world. I mean, we are in the middle of November, and we're feeling our jackets are a bit warm for us. So the number of days where you can actually go out into the fields and do ecotourism in Malta is 330 days. It is unrivaled in any other part of the world.
Okay, let's have a short break, then we come back for the conclusion of today's program. Okay, back to our last minutes of this program, a program presented to you by the Federation of Estate Agents, a special program for our English-speaking viewers. Before we conclude, may I remind you that those who intend to sell, rent, or advertise their property, that they must have the Energy Performance Certificate, and the deadline is February 2018.
That's it. In conclusion, I'd like to say, if you are thinking of investing, a very safe investment, an investment you're not going to lose, because at the end of the day, the building is there and it belongs to you. Malta's tourism has exceeded 1.9 million this year. The government is in a situation where it can afford to be choosy, so we would have more investment in high end. We have got low-cost airlines, over 10 of them that fly to Malta, one of them in particular hubs to 58 different countries, where the cost to fly to Malta is less than the cost of the taxi to arrive at the airport in their country. So you have weekend tourists that are rather high-end, you have people who want a week break, and they look for, amongst other things, this particular kind of product. There are tax incentives, there are building incentives, and the market is tested. It is not a leap into the dark. You know exactly what you are getting when you do this investment. So go down to your nearest estate agent. Make sure they have that sticker on the door that they are members of the Federation of Estate Agents. Highly trained, well-policed and well-regulated agents who will give you the best advice you could wish to get on the island in an independent and impartial manner. Thank you.
Simon De Bono, the Secretary General of the Federation of Estate Agents. We come to the conclusion of our program. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.